Yes.
I can hear you.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope that you're all enjoying your summers and getting back into the swing of things before the fall school year begins. We are really happy to be able to host you for, I would say a final webinar, but I'm hoping the last of our official community college completion core activities, but we're hoping continued conversations will occur after today's call. I'm Jessie Ryan, as you all know, Executive Vice President with the Campaign for College Opportunity, and I'm here with my colleagues Sarah Arce and Eileen Zong. And we thought that we would just start this morning, since we haven't seen each other in a bit, with a little icebreaker activity to get us all centered and thinking about places that we love to be. So we have a picture of a beautiful beach, and we thought we would go around by way of introduction and each say our name and the vacation destination that we most love, either a destination that we visited or would like to in the future.
Yay!
So why don't we start with Andrew? Andrew, are you there? Okay, let's go ahead and go to Haley.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, so my vacation destination. Let's see. I would have to choose New York, upstate New York. That's my favorite place to vacation.
Would someone like to go next? Yeah?
I'll go.
Great.
Hey, this is Olivia. Good morning. Favorite destination. I'm going to say, since the theme is beach, I'm going to say Catalina Island. I just love it because it's close to us. It's only like an hour boat ride from Long Beach or Newport, and it does feel like you are on a smaller Hawaii. And it's really beautiful, and I think it makes me appreciate California even more. So I love Catalina.
Awesome. Wonderful. Doug?
Yes. Where would I most like to vacation? Probably Olympia National Park up in Washington. I'll go there. I'm not sure how their beaches are, though.
Go ahead and jump in, and then whatever student would like to go next. I will say Paris, both my favorite place that I've ever vacationed and want to return to. Just awesome, beautiful city.
And this is Sarah. I will go ahead and say Cabo. I was actually just there, but I was not there long enough. Definitely like to be there again right now. Who would like to go?
Cabo?
Cabo.
Any other people who would like to share? Okay.
Can you hear me? Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
It sounds like I'm going in and out. That's why I keep saying hello, but whatever. This is Kim. Good morning, everybody. My favorite place of vacation is Chicago because I lived there for several years. They don't really have a beach. They have a lake that they call a beach. So where I would like to go is the beaches of Italy because I'm from California, so we have beaches all the time.
Love it.
Hey there, this is Lenny.
Hey, girl.
Hey, Haley.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, where I would want a vacation, well, I guess I'm just a woodsy person. Wherever I can just disappear and not see another human being for miles and just disconnect. So I guess the woods. I guess that's where I would choose to get vacation.
Cool. So is
But
there
I wouldn't
anyone
mind
who has
Cabo.
not gone yet?
This is Octavia. I hope you guys can hear me well.
Hey.
Hey. So I would love to go back on the Disney cruise because we stop in the Bahamas and then we go to their private island, Castaway Cay.
Sounds fun. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our call now that we've all dreamt of our vacation places and wished that we were elsewhere, right? So I just wanted to tell you, we had a staff retreat a couple weeks ago, and at the Campaign for College Opportunities staff retreat, we were reflecting on the completion core, and I wanted to share that we have really felt that this group of completion core members has been by far in the 4+ years that I've been doing this work with the completion core, the most outstanding, the best class ever. You guys are just really wonderful, and I just wanted to thank you for your time and being a part of this. I think it's been special, and having you participate as advocates, empowered to take a stand on issues that are critical for the future of California and for students, has been a wonderful thing for me to be able to watch. And so today's call, is really an opportunity for us to tie up loose ends, to talk about future opportunities for collaboration, and to hopefully create the space for what's next in this completion core journey and for future completion core members. So we're grateful for your time, and we're just going to jump into the meat of the agenda and encourage you to participate at key points throughout the webinar. So I'm going to turn it over to my policy director, Sarah Arce, who will begin.
Hello, everybody. So as Jesse mentioned, I think at the last convening, we thought we just had a really great conversation about potential or actually issues on campus that you're facing and that you guys identified, and the potential to work on those issues on your own campuses. So I just wanted to quickly do a recap of those issues that you guys identified going into this conversation. So we'll start with, sorry about that. So the first issue that came up was the overpopulation on campuses and in classrooms. So obviously this means, impacted classes and your ability to be able to get into the classes that you need to, complete or to transfer. Placement tests were also identified. I think we're obviously doing a lot of work at the campaign around this issue as it pertains to remedial education. But what you guys identified was that placement tests have a huge bearing on, your future at a college, and perhaps that's not known to most students how much of a how influential those placement tests can be in your ability to move forward in your educational goals.
Right. I often hear them described as high-stake tests that students don't understand could determine their future.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Student involvement on campus. I think we heard here that, there are limited sort of opportunities for student involvement on campus, and a lot of times students aren't, the students that are going to community college are students who are working, they have other commitments, maybe they have families to support, and so their ability to become involved on campus is really limited or can be limited. Access to information or the delivery of that information to students. I thought that this was really interesting that you guys identified because you said it's not necessarily that there are not enough resources on campus, but it's how those services and that information is delivered to students. There's a wealth of information out there, but it's not getting to students. traditional versus non-traditional students. So this was identified as an issue that, when we're talking about students on community college campuses, we really need to be talking about that they're, understanding that there are traditional and non-traditional students, and that non-traditional students have different needs and may need, support, some unique supports, student support services. The digital divide was identified, so students' access to technology be a barrier for them. Low enrollment equals dropped classes. You guys identified that, dropped classes is a big issue for you on campus. Most of the time, that being done on the first day, you find out that your class has been dropped once you've already gone to the class, or once you've already tried to plan out your work and school schedule. This is a really difficult thing to have to deal with when you have a dropped class. Education, obviously we've spent a lot of time around that issue this year. But, this is obviously a big barrier to students. Funding levels, so higher ed funding in general and funding for individual campuses remains an issue because, especially at a statewide level, the funding is up and down, so that very much dictates how many classes a college can offer and what sort of, support services they're able to invest in from year to year. The cost of textbooks. And then you guys also identified transparency. So it's, it being unclear to you perhaps how the college is, where they're allocating resources, and, who's making those decisions. The counselor and student communication. So this is another one that was identified a few different ways. So, counselors not necessarily having all the information or imparting the correct information to students. You guys felt like that was an issue. You guys also identified additional supports for AB 540 students. And student preparation, which brings us back to, I think the high school level and being prepared for college level courses, whether that be, whether that means you then are placed into remedial courses, or if you haven't taken the A through G courses that you need to be able to get into a 4-year institution. And then the last one was interpersonal connection, and I think this probably gets back a little bit to the student involvement on campus issue, and that's just, not necessarily feeling a connection with the students around you at your colleges.
So, I wanted to thank each of you for doing such great work on the afternoon of our convening and identifying those core issue areas. I thought it was really interesting because not only did you do a really outstanding job of articulating areas of concern, but those areas of concern really nicely aligned with some of the campaign strategic priorities and our focus currently and over the past few years for the organization on student success and issues of access and affordability. So I thought it would be good to share with you just very briefly, based on a recent effort that the campaign has undertaken to develop our strategic priorities moving forward, what the Campaign for College Opportunity has articulated as our core policy priorities, our areas of focus moving forward for this next phase of our work. And then to really see where we see some synergy and alignment between the issue areas that you identified and the direction that the campaign is moving in. So I'm going to go ahead and start by sharing the statewide plan. The Campaign for College Opportunity, as you know, went through the process of doing a listening tour across the state in 20 cities with key folks from students to education leaders, business leaders, civil rights leaders, to talk about the future of higher education, the state of higher education moving forward, and consistently articulated among concerns across stakeholder groups was this idea that really the state of California lacked a plan for how we were going to increase access, increase completion, and close the achievement gap. And so the campaign, in looking at other states and how they have successfully executed an ambitious higher ed agenda that has served students and the state well, really understands that there is a need for a statewide plan that clearly articulates goals and strategies for increasing access, closing the achievement gap, and increasing student success. And so that is going to be one of the core focuses of our work moving forward. We've actually commissioned some researchers to put together a model statewide plan that we're hoping that we can take to key leaders across the state and really encourage it to be a framework for whatever the state develops in terms of their own statewide plan, or really create some political pressure to push the state to develop a statewide plan that's actionable moving forward. The second key policy priority, and this is near and dear to my heart, is student pathways. This is where our transfer reform efforts, our student success task force efforts, and our basic skills efforts have fallen for the most part. Ensuring that the students in California community colleges, CSU, and UC have the best possible path to reach their educational goals, whether that's certificate, degree, or transfer. Making sure that we have strategies that encourage multiple ways that students can demonstrate learning and advance towards their credential and degrees with a minimum loss of time and effort. So at the community college level, that's making sure that students have a clear education plan, that they have a path to transfer with the degree to show for their work, and a guarantee of admission for their efforts. At the CSU and the UC, that's making sure that students have assistance in really timely graduation so that we are reducing the total time to degree and increasing a student's rates of success and understanding of the credits necessary to reach their degree objectives. And then finally, access to serve more Californians. And there is some overlap between the student pathways and access to serve more Californians. I think for access to serve more Californians, we see this as being a linchpin right now in California higher education. We see that we are in record numbers serving students who are out-of-state students and international students at a time when we're turning away students who meet minimum eligibility requirements. So we're turning away students due to no fault of their own. And so this idea of really focusing on access to serve more Californians is critical. And this really is, for us, an endemic issue at all three systems of public higher education. At the community college level, we serve, quote unquote, all students who seek an education, and yet, while you are admitted, quite often, as you articulated, you can't get the classes you need to actually successfully progress. And so we see this as critical to meeting future workforce needs, to ensuring the state's future well-being, but to making sure that we produce a generation of productive Californians who are in the best possible position to be successful themselves and to contribute to the economy and the future well-being of the state. So I'm just going to pause there, and this is where we're going to see how some of these areas aligned with the key issue areas that the Completion Corps identified at the last convening. We talked about the idea that there is overpopulation. We know that if we're going to ensure that we have a plan for meeting the future generations who will seek access to California public higher education, we need to have a statewide plan. We think that that falls into that bucket. We know that digital divide and no access to technology is a key issue. We see that as being part of our access agenda. We know that funding and affordability is key to access for public higher education. We know that textbook costs really fall under what we categorize as the real cost of a college education. We think it's very short-sighted when policymakers and state leaders are focusing on tuition alone and not acknowledging the real cost of California education and how that inhibits a student's chance of success. And finally, support for AB 540 students. We know that we have to do a better job of ensuring that our AB 540 students also have an opportunity to reach their educational goals. As we talk about access to serve more Californians, our AB 540 students are Californians that are critical to meeting the state's future well-being, and we're still figuring out a best path for meeting their needs. Our final area, student pathways, is where much of our work, as I shared, has centered in the past. Placement tests, basic skills reform, as I shared, is both access and student pathways, ensuring that students understand those high-stake tests and how they will determine their placement moving forward. Student preparation, also being key to getting into the college credit-bearing coursework that actually allows you to progress. Interpersonal connection, because we know that that is key to student retention, and that without that interpersonal connection, students quite often don't get the information they need so that they can successfully progress. Recognizing that we don't have just one type of student, that we need different ideas for creating seamless pathways for traditional students versus the non-traditional students. Remedial education as being that kind of gateway, unfortunately, gateway to either creating opportunity for the vast majority of our students or shutting them out. And then finally, counselor and student communication. As we know, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, is that at community colleges in particular, the counselor-to-student ratio is really bad. And so when you have an abysmal counselor-to-student ratio, often the communications is not what it needs to be to ensure that students have all of the necessary information to make it through in a timely fashion. So that's where, one final area is others. So we had 3 of these that didn't necessarily fall into one of these key areas, but arguably are really interwoven in all 3 instances. Transparency, making sure that the bureaucracies and the institutions themselves are sharing their information, their data in a transparent way that allows us to inform our decision making. Arguably, that could be part of a state plan. Diversity, and I think equity really falls in this diversity, and you talked about diversity of staff, making sure that you had faculty that actually looked like the students that they served. That's key. And I say arguably it influences access, it influences pathways, because a student is more likely to stay in school if they find a connection with faculty that teaches them. And then student preparation, which is interwoven in everything that we do, but really falls at the K-12 level and could be a separate body of work in and of itself, and is my night job. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you because I want to hear from you, and we'll go on mute as each of you get a chance to share. We sent you out an email yesterday, and we asked you to do some reflection. We said, based on the campaign's strategic priorities and the issue areas that you identified, if we had one area of focus, one top priority moving forward, where would we want to exert that time and energy and effort in collaboration with our students? So I would love to have you answer your number 1 priority based upon the issue areas you identified and the priorities that the campaign articulated. Your number 1 priority for partnership moving forward. What's the one area of focus that you think we should put our energy into?
Let's go ahead and can start with Tim.
How did I know that was going to happen? Well, for me, has always been transparency with admission and our faculty members on our campuses. As of now, since I am leaving, that is something that I know that's going to keep me awake at night, making sure that students that have disabilities, primarily learning disabilities, get all the access that they actually are legally supposed to get. And a lot of them are not aware of that. So I know that for me personally, that will be something that I would want us to keep focus on, is making sure there's always going to be transparency on all levels of administration and faculty. That's just personally for me that I think that we should keep track of. And I think that will go into us tying into making sure that we keep track of all of the bills that we were campaigning for, primarily the AB 770, which is about basic skills. Those type of bills, and there's others that I know that is in discussion, that will make sure that that we keep the focus on those areas as basically as hard as we can, because again, for me, I don't want those particular students to be left behind, because I think that also ties into our success rate as overall. I mean, these are students who might get help but don't know exactly much help they actually should be getting. And so that's why I think that that's some area where we should keep track of and always make sure that we support any bill that goes forth from this point on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go with Olivia next.
Okay, so this was hard for me because it's hard to narrow it down to one, but I know that it's more productive when we do have a narrower focus. So my biggest thing, because I work in the assessment office and I see how tremendously difficult and not really inconsistent the AccuPlacer test is with the sample questions that we give, and just like the test in general, and the preparation for the test is so subpar. I would really like to see more outreach maybe to the high schools, and making sure that they're also doing their part in preparing kids for the assessment test. And I do think that the assessment test also ties in very well with remedial education, and I think that it would be like a combined goal to also kind of look into what our options may be, statistics of schools that don't even have assessment tests and the students self-attest, maybe sharing those. Also, for the accelerated remedial courses, maybe working to make sure that that's also something that's being considered in the works with the new common assessment that's going to be coming out. But also too, so that's really important and near and dear to my heart, but I would, since there's already the common assessment initiative and stuff taking off, I would really like to work with the Completion Corp and see what we can do to, I don't want to say better educate, because that kind of sounds demeaning to our counselors, but maybe help them to better communicate to students that there's other opportunities besides the CSU pipeline, and I mean that specifically for the UC school. So I know that for SB 1440 and the Associate Degree for Transfer, they said that they're looking at and working on creating that pathway to the UC system as well, but I think that that's something that's really important, and I would like to see maybe the counselors also take on some responsibility in preparing the students for the assessment test. I know at our school it's kind of backwards, where the students are told to go to the assessment test first and then see a counselor. So I'm interested in that. To sum it up, sorry.
Olivia, those are all really great issues. They are, and they're all issues that the campaign is going to continue to be watchdogging. Counselor information and communication, that's a professional development training issue, which I'm hoping that the Chancellor's Office is going to take up as part of the professional development and student success monies they have. And I think it is a real issue. But this idea of doing a better job of communicating pathways to students, not just CSU pathways, but UC, and that part of that is getting the UC to commit to honoring a transfer degree pathway that guarantees admission, similar to the SB 1440 pathway versus just aligning coursework and in certain majors, which is a good first step, but far from where it needs to be. So those are really great ideas, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Like there's this Marty Block Common Assessment bill that is being implemented right now in the community college system, but I was sharing with Sarah, we don't even know if that's going to work. I mean, really, the bigger conversation is, even with a common assessment, if assessments aren't articulated, the stakes of the assessment aren't articulated to students, if we aren't using multiple measures to determine their readiness, are we doing them a disservice? And I think that that's going to be a bigger issue that we're going to continue to need to tackle. So thank you. Shall we go to Haley?
Hey guys, so I totally agree with Olivia. That was my area of choice, was the placement testing. Just because it's my experience in the placement testing room, it was absolutely horrible. And better connecting it with the high school students and better preparing them for the placement testing as well. So pretty much everything Olivia said, that was what I chose as well. So having a better connection with the high school students, big time, because I feel like that they lack that tremendously, especially with MJC and the schools surrounding the high schools that are feeding into it. They could better prepare them and everything.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And Haley, it's interesting. I just had this conversation yesterday with a K-12 principal who, had no idea the issues that existed at the community college level with assessment tests. So going back to what you and Olivia shared, not only are the tests really problematic, but how are we communicating what these tests actually mean to K-12 educators, I think is something that we're going to have to continue to talk about. Let's go with Andrew.
Okay. So I would say that the most important thing in my years trying to do this type of stuff is just information in general. It's kind of like what everyone else said, but information in general to how to transfer, much like what everyone else has said. I've spent so many years in the community college system, not necessarily because I wanted to, but because I didn't actually know how to move forward. So that would be the most valuable thing to I think a lot of students in what they're trying to do in the community college system specifically, is how to move forward, not just as a CSU, but also the UCs or also private colleges in general. And just, there are some people who are there for the community education and there for a completion certificate, but most students do want to actually move on to another 4-year institution.
Great, thank you. I think that's obviously something the campaign has been working on and will continue to work on, and I think we're definitely not there yet, so that's really great. Let's go with Lenny next.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I was just listening to what everyone's saying, and again, I guess what everyone's been doing, just piggybacking off of that, just stressing, I guess, what is necessary and that assessment test. When Jesse Ryan had said earlier about how, just stressing how things are important and things like that, I feel like it isn't at all. And, it sounds like we want to work towards that, which I think we definitely should. Especially with kids, like Haley had said, going in from high school and how they're, was it Haley or was it, I'm so sorry, I'm just listening to everyone's, and so anyways, sorry.
And Olivia.
But, yeah, Olivia had said it as well, yeah. And so how just stressing how there isn't really that stress going from high school into the community college, and so it's really letting kids down there, and it's not setting them up for success, and we're trying to fix an issue when it was kind of started before that. And so, I mean, definitely, even though it's not community college, but if a bill is coming out that is in some way going to fix that and go into high schools and set kids up for success in that way, I feel like we should support that as well.
So.
Great. That's wonderful. Thank you, Lenny. Let's go to, who have we not gone to yet?
Latavia?
Itavia, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still on the line. Sorry.
No problem.
In the quiet area. Just listening to everyone, I do see that the main thing is just the distribution of information, how we're going to get it out. But for the proper decision, we're going to continue to move forward. I would like to focus on not only the information and how we're going to get it out, but the resources that the students are allowed to get. That's similar with what Tim mentioned about DSPS and all the other students. I think that everyone should be able to have the opportunity to get the resources, but they don't know how. That's pretty much it.
Great. Thank you, Itavia. I think that's really, really important information. I think that is it. I don't believe, actually, we might have Jesus or Alex on the call. Are one of you or both of you there who would like to contribute? Okay, I think we might have lost them. So we're going to go ahead and continue on. So I really loved hearing your comments, and I think we're on the same page. And, you know, Tim, even in areas where the campaign has not had a clear focus in the past, I think that it's absolutely important work that you're articulating, and we need to, you know, find groups that in partnership can take up that charge. But really what we wanted to talk about was based upon the priority areas that you've identified, the strategic priorities of the campaign, and that number one, tier one focus that you think we should have moving forward. What's next for the completion core, and how can we really continue the momentum that we've been able to build over the last 6 months? So we have a few things that we wanted to talk about. We had an opportunity at the campaign's recent staff retreat to talk about the C4 moving forward. We have actually given you an assignment asking each of you to recruit some potential community college completion core student leaders. And I know some of you have got your nominations in. For those of you who haven't, that's the one last thing between you and your stipend, and so we're really hoping that you'll get that in. It doesn't have to be a lengthy process. You know, you might nominate somebody that declines ultimately to join the completion core, but we would love to have your nominations and your insights about potential student leaders nonetheless. Please get that in, as that's going to be critical to shaping next year's community college completion core class. Secondly, I wanted to talk to you about the completion core, or C4, as it's been dubbed by some of our fabulous communications-savvy student leaders, 2.0. As part of our staff retreat, we really brainstormed what the completion core could look like. And as part of that conversation, as I shared earlier in the webinar, we discussed this notion that you as student leaders were really remarkable, that you had had an energy and a synergy and had come together in a way that we felt was exemplary and a bit special and different from our past completion core classes. And so we talked about, could we potentially fundraise to do a completion core 2.0? Could we do something that allowed for your voices, as many of you are moving on to the UC and the CSU, to continue to contribute in some way and to build upon the advocacy skills that you had been empowered with to date? And we thought that that was really exciting. You know, even potentially looking as part of that in developing a alumni network so that we could keep you connected. And then finally, we had talked about continued advocacy. And this is kind of really a baseline for maintaining some involvement with the work of the Campaign for College Opportunity. Every year the campaign supports and sometimes sponsors a piece of legislation. We often do advocacy days where we are educating members about core issues of importance to students. And we also are consistently throughout the year creating the political will necessary to enact change. So that means really through media, through reports, publishing data, original research, and op-eds, as well as helping to shape feature stories that make the case for the necessary changes. And so, there are wonderful ways that we can plug you into those activities if you're willing.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it. Awesome. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, and then I'm going to open it up to everyone and kind of hear your thoughts about this, is just the maintaining and sustaining the effective partnership. And this goes hand in hand with what I just shared about some of the areas that we've brainstormed for moving forward with the work. We don't want to lose you. We don't want you to go off to transfer or if for those of you who are continuing on at community colleges, to look at this as just a one-year experience that's something that you might put on your resume, but that won't necessarily shape you moving forward. And so, we have been brainstorming ways to continue to keep you engaged. Part of us looking at maintaining effective partnerships and collaboration is recognizing that there were a few things that were core to growing this special brand of the Completion Corps. The first was seeding the ideas and empowering the team. We feel like, as part of the first convening, we talked to you about the master plan for higher education. We talked to you about the budget process. We really tried to show you the wizard behind the curtain, so to speak, so that you were then empowered to actually go to the necessary policymakers to request change. And we see that as a really good investment of our time and energy, and felt like each one of you grew as a result of it and are now in a position to be much better advocates for the students in your communities and across the state. The next thing that we've looked at is really building trust and good communication, and that also gets to the special brand of Community College Completion Corps that we've developed over the last year. We feel like even though each of you are extremely busy, and we are too, through our Facebook posts, through our in-person convenings and our webinars, we have laid the foundation for not only good communication with one another, but trust. This understanding of shared purpose, right? I mean, we're all here for the same reasons, because we believe in California public higher education and we want to make a difference for students. And so when you have a group of like-minded stakeholders like that have built that trust and established a mechanism for communicating, you want to make sure that you have an opportunity to continue that momentum moving forward. And then finally, really identifying clear partnership tactics. And this is where I want to open it up to you. I threw out some ideas for you, and I'd love to hear your feedback. At the end of the day, we can have trust, we can share ideas and empower you with the tools necessary to become effective advocates. But if we don't have a mechanism for continued partnership and some real clear ideas, activities, and tactics for continuing to collaborate, then it's very easy for each of us to go our separate ways and lose this special that we've created through the Community College Completion Corps. So I shared with you three things, recruiting and mentoring some talent that comes into future completion corps. I shared with you the idea of being part of a completion corps 2.0, an advanced completion corps that might run on a parallel track with our Community College Completion Corps and continue to build additional skills and tools for the toolbox as you grow as advocates in state policy making. And I also talked to you about the idea of building an alumni network. And the final thing that we discussed is this potential for continuing to plug you into campaign activities. That means really getting a sense from you, either through a survey or through Eileen reaching out to you directly, of where you would like us to continue to plug you into the work of the Campaign for College Opportunity. You know, rallies, hearings, opportunities to come together maybe for an annual training, including you in local, regional activities as we start to do regional outreach this fall and into the spring. So I'm going to pause right there. I just shared a lot of information. I would love to hear from the group what you see as being some really great opportunities for us to continue this momentum and to partner moving forward.
Hey there. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. I was just going to say this sounds awesome, and you know, it's actually probably going to help with like turnover and everything like that as well, because what we want is an impact. And so if we bring these students in and we train them and we get, like myself and many others, I guess, and I'm assuming learned a lot and grew a lot through this. And, you know, us getting this knowledge and then just being thrown into the world and we're like, okay, apply. I mean, it's all great and we are going to, you know, take what we learned. But having to coming back maybe once a year just to see where we're at or see how things are going, I think we're going to have more of an impact then, because then we still have this unity, and then also there's also mentoring possibilities within that. You know, when a new student comes in and there's a student that did this 2 years ago, they can be like, hey, you guys can relate very well, and it's just, I feel like it would be more beneficial to do this than to not do this. So I think this sounds awesome.
Great.
That's great. And I just wanted to confirm, was that Lenny who just spoke?
Yeah, sorry. I should have said that.
Wanted to make sure. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in and share their thoughts?
Yeah.
This is Olivia. I just definitely, I want to be involved as much as possible. Please reach out to me. Let me know how I can help with everything. And I do definitely agree with Lenny. I think it would be a really cool idea for us to kind of pass on our foundation to the next group that's going to come in, but also still be able to have an opportunity hopefully to meet at least semi-annually or once a year to kind of let each other know where we're at in our progressions. And also I think as individuals, maybe what we can do, I liked when Jesse brought up the fact that there is a lot of funds right now for student success. And I think that ties in with professional development and definitely ties in with student services like counseling. So I think if you are involved with your local ASO or your community college as a student, to be involved in those discussions and to push what we're talking about with counselors, you know, needing better communications for assessments, testing, for the UC pathway, for everything. So I think we can do that. And also for the members of our team that are moving on to the UC system to also kind of be a key player in your efforts in discussions about the community college transfer pathway and kind of hopefully bringing that message there if you ever run into a conversation, someone that can help to make that pathway a little bit clearer.
Idea. That's a great idea. And I have to say, I don't know if you all were following, but Kevin Sabo, who is one of our former community college completion leaders, he became the new president of the UC Student Association. So I'm expecting that, you know, in addition to him being a future Secretary of State, he will be a great ally to us in trying to push the transfer pathway to the UC. So that'll be really good.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Others?
I agree with, this is Haley. I agree with both of what Olivia and Lenny said. I definitely want to stay involved as much as I can because this group has really helped me just with my own success in education and to learn more about it. So it definitely has kept me on track. So, and I would love to help bring in others and mentor high school students as well. So I think it'd be great. So yeah.
Hey everyone. Hi everyone. This is Doug. Hey, I just wanted to chime in. I think it's really great that we have so many people that are really wanting to be continually involved in this, and I think that there's definitely great opportunity for that. Yeah, and I will do my best as well to keep all of you connected. I know all of you on social media, so I'll keep you all connected, and we'll try to have those conversations continuing, moving forward like that. So I think this is really great.
Great, thank you. Are there others that haven't been able to contribute that want to share?
Yeah. He will keep cutting me off. That's okay. This is Tim. I agree with everyone that has spoken before me. One of the things that I think that I was truly excited about was to hear about the continuance for the people that were transferring the 2.0, which is a pretty cool name. I think that will give us the opportunity on the UC and CSU levels to be able to contribute to on those campuses at a different level. I think that one of the best things that we could do is start being identified with the local activities that are going on in our area, especially in Southern California. And I would most definitely agree to a monthly training or either a yearly training where we all come back together and we train and be able to be called on to come and do mentoring for the next group that comes in for the community college level. So I would be 100% down to do a 2.0 and to come back for weekly trainings and do some local activities in our local areas. I think it's awesome.
Great. I'm so glad to hear that because we can only do a C4 2.0 if there's interest from people who are transferring to CSU and UC to continue on. And I just think that would be so exciting and such a great opportunity for us to continue what we started. So it's great to hear that feedback. Are there one or two others that wanted to share their reactions? Okay. No problem. I think we might have lost a couple, and we have a couple people who are on mute while we're on the call. If there's anyone who didn't have a chance to share their reactions to the activities and the next steps that I proposed, feel free to email myself, Sarah, or Eileen with those thoughts, and we'll definitely incorporate them into our notes. So, I will tell you one of the things that gives me the just most pride and validation that the Completion Corps has been special and has worked over the years is watching the student leaders grow into themselves and take on next steps in career opportunities, transfer, graduate. And, many of our Completion Corps leaders have gone on to advocacy work. They have gone on to work in nonprofits. They've gone on to work for legislators. They have gone on to work as policy advocates for the systems themselves. And so I will tell you, one of the benefits that we offer the Completion Corps is we offer for Completion Corps students the ability to put this on their resume, to use us as a reference, to use us if you need letters of recommendation. We only ask that you ask for them 2 weeks in advance because sometimes we get those requests, can you do a letter of recommendation for tomorrow? But beyond that, we really want to support your growth and you step into your role as California's future leaders. So know that you can call on us, and we will certainly be calling on you. We are going to go back and we're going to take the information that you shared with us today, your thoughts and comments about next steps, and compile some notes and figure out what our opportunities are for developing a proposal that we hope can be funded by some of our foundation supporters so that we can do a 2.0. One of the challenges of doing our student work is quite often people don't want to fund student work, which is, to me, astonishing. And this is actually our last year of funding through the Rappaport Foundation, which was a wonderful family foundation that has supported us with a modest grant for the last 4 years that has allowed us to pay for your travel and stipends, with the campaign pretty much donating our staff time to do it because we believe this work is so critical to that we do at the Campaign for College Opportunity. So we'll be putting together a proposal based on your interest in doing a Completion Core 2.0 and funding some of the activities we discussed, like an annual convening with student leaders or the ability to bring you out here for some key events in Sacramento at the Capitol. Definitely be getting back to you and let you know where we end up on this. And I also want you to know that it's really important to us that we feature you because you're all doing wonderful work at a local level and are pretty remarkable human beings. And so you might be receiving a call from our new communications manager, Jamal, who we're going to be talking to him about doing some additional student profiles, potentially putting together a special web page that would spotlight both current and former Completion Core student leaders. So look for that in the coming weeks and months. And I'm going to just close by thanking you so much for your time and opening it up to any final questions or thoughts.
Hey, it's Lenny again.
Hey, Lenny. Go ahead.
Hi,
we
Lenny.
can hear you.
Okay, great. I just wanted to, end by saying thank you. Thank you for allowing me to meet all of these great people, and thank you for offering me the opportunity to go and learn more about how the legislative system works here in California, and just allowing me to figure out what I can do more as an individual and what we can do more as a group. And, it's very inspiring, and, just again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, Eileen, Jesse, Doug. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, all the students that I've been working with.
Oh, thank you, Lenny. That's very sweet. And when I say that you give us the energy for the work we do, you absolutely do. I mean, policy making can be obscure, and when you actually have student leaders who are strong and passionate and bring you back into why you do the work you do, it really validates each of our efforts. And I hear somebody running away from the phone. Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you again for your time. It's 11 o'clock on the dot, and I want to be mindful that each of you have places. But I really want to just reiterate once again that it has been an end, because we will be calling upon you in the coming weeks and months, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what our continued partnership brings into fruition in the future. I think that you are wonderful change agents, and it's been a real pleasure getting to be part of the Completion Core this year.
And this is Sarah. I think Jesse summed it up really nicely, but it has been just a great privilege to get to work with you guys and get to know you guys, and it really helps us continue to do the work up here in Sacramento and make the case and sort of hear what's going on in the field, at the ground level. So thank you so much, and look forward to future engagement opportunities.
And finally, Eileen's going to say goodbye as well.
Hey, everyone. It's Eileen. And
hi, Eileen.
Hey. I just wanted to thank everyone, and I look forward to the conversations we'll be having in the future. And definitely this is not a goodbye, so don't worry, guys.
You'll be hearing from her again.
Okay. Everyone, have a wonderful day. And like I said, if you haven't had the opportunity to put in your nomination forms, get that done, because we want to cut you your checks. And have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll be speaking with you and seeing you very soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to hang out with you guys and
Talk
learn
to you
more.
soon.
Thanks all, Jesse.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Campaign
Peace
for College
out.
Opportunity.